Ezekiel Part 2, starting at chapter 9. Chapter 9 here. Okay. The words I got here from draw near is to bring. So I'm using the word bring. I don't see a problem with that. Needed to add the word all. Linen to hides, and still clothes coloring. I figure that's close enough to change, but just letting you know about it. Men to mankind, he's trying to point out who are the bad guys, that are the corrupt ones who are evil. So, and all their evilness, because they are changing his words, telling his people to go away from our Creator. So this is those who are not going to make it. This word here needs to be yellow. Then to others he said, go to the cities and kill them. To strike is to kill. I've mentioned that a few times before, and I've used strike as to strike, as about to kill. Do not kill any man who does not have the mark. And I added this text here, but we have whom here would be the two. I just wanted to make sure that what they did was here, up here, they're being marked down here and killed down here. So do not touch any man who has the mark. So I had to clearly make sure which was which. Would you be destroyed is not is true. Our Creator knows our soul cannot die. There's no prophecy in this story here, so this is one of those that people are going to say, well, you just threw it out. Well, yes, I'm going to throw it out. I believe some of this is actually kept in our Creator's hidden formats. Very difficult to do, but when you go through here, there's no prophecy. There's just this story of these beings. So I'm getting rid of all that text. Like I said, a lot of Ezekiel I'm going to get rid of. Brought to the gate to YHVH'S house. Okay, then he was lifted up. And it seemed, well, I'll get to that later, I'm sorry. Not the people, but the tribes, because Israel has 10 tribes. So the kingdom of Israel has 10 tribes. So I'm keeping to that. And it's not just he, our Creator is speaking, so we don't refer to our Creator as he said. And this verse, I need two major words to connect this together. Devise is meaning to plan, and I still didn't get my computer hooked up. And I've added the word Israel's cities, and these are the bad cities, evil advice in Israel's cities. I switched the word says from here to over here, and so I'm just noting that I switched the words. You think, well, it's actually you teach Israelis, but I know your thoughts. It also might be you might lead Israel's. So anyway, the word think is completely wrong. Slaying is deaths. This to many, this city, because it was just talking about Jerusalem or just one city, and it needs to be many cities because in many streets that they killed people. And then they had no fear, needed to add the word no, but it doesn't need to be added. It makes it the third major word here. But I needed to add the word no. Sorry about that. Add the word captives because that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be taken captives by the Assyrians. I'm using the word nor to be added here and the word have here. I didn't want to rearrange them down here. I wanted them after the word you. Executed, but it means judged as well, so I didn't need to use this as anything more than just changing that word. Acted is because we're referring to these judges, ordinances, my commands. But I didn't use the word commands here because I like the word will when I'm going through here because it's specifically talking about his statutes and commandments. Now, he has other laws as well, but since they're not here, I put will. And this is majorly because these two are very important to our Creator, these statutes and commandments, because if you don't have commandments, you don't have sins. So if you don't know what the commandments are, that's the commandments. Whoops, there we go. Those are the 12 commandments, and those are sins. If you do not obey them, you needed to bring a sin offering. So this is why I'm using the word will here. Whoops. I guess I'm using the word will down here. I guess I covered that up. I didn't know I covered that up. I'm going to have to make a line here on my computer at some point to know how much I'm blocking. So let's get back to the 5 reasons, and that still blocked it. Hopefully I'll remember to do it down in this area here for right now. Sorry about that. I wasn't really checking the screen over there. Like I said, act and judge is the same thing, that's the act that's actually being done accordingly or like. So I'm using the word like as a major word here, where other verses I would not use it that way. It's just, like I said, I'm putting my influence on these verses, and you can see I'm trying to keep to this format. Now here I'm using this guy's name because this guy was earlier, and don't need this guy because he's the leader of, and their leaders. Okay, but he's the main culprit of what's going on. I'm using the word then. I needed it. It usually replaces the word now as a major word, but I have prophesied here. So these two are needed, but to keep the following of the verses to flow, to read correctly, it'd be confusing if I didn't add the word then there. Remnant is descendants because it's the descendants that he's saving. He's killing off all mankind, or those that are evil. Whole to everyone. And the whole in Israel, there's no whole in Israel, so there's everyone in Israel. And this is speaking to the kingdom of Israel, going to be exiles, and they will go far away. You notice the word Assyria has not been used in this text. So this could actually be text that's even earlier than what I'm thinking here. Because when I'm putting these together, I kept thinking, where's the word Assyria? And usually our Creator has a prophet start telling them these things, and the next prophet will come along. And like I said in the last video, these are over many years, that these happen before these actually happen, to where he warns them and then he tells them who's coming and then they come. So the text is missing that. So when I'm saying that it needs to be from this group of kings here, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that will clean up the screen. I'm not sure if you're seeing the little red box around it or not when I'm looking over here on the screen. But it could be before that. It could be another prophet that's over on the red side. Yeah, over on the red side, there on this side, the Red Kings. Could be another prophet. They added to although, so that reads better. A little to a long time, not just a little while, because we know the story. We know that these two have to be changed to a long time, because Israel goes and then Judah goes. And you can see over there by the text or the thumbnail above my head that it's like a couple hundred years later. So that would be a long time. Assemble to bring them back. He will gather theirs. I put the word assemble more or less over here, so I guess I should do this here and say I'm adding the word bring them back. Not you, because he's out there telling the evil ones that they're going to die. In the land for Israel's, meaning the Israelis, for their land to their land for Israelis, to the land for Israel's. I guess I could use that either, but I'm going to leave that alone. Walk means to live by here in this case, and walk, you would see that that word needs to be live to be more correct than walk by. Again, commandments as ordinances, because we have the word statutes up here, and I mentioned how important these two are to our Creator. So these two, this statute, and this statute also is part of the commandments when it gets down to understanding the first day of the first year is a holy day. So between these two, you have to understand the statute, because they're supposed to celebrate the Passover, his passing over. Amidst among those, that's pretty easy. Go to walk among them. Same thing here. Sight to seeing. Don't think there's that much there. Move groups 2 down. Did I move that up here? Okay. This needs to be move. That's what was confusing me. And then I didn't put them all in 8 point. So let me do that now. Okay, it's this verse here that I was confused by, but what it is when I clean it up, and these words I added, so let's do that as well. I moved them down here to read in order, because if he's saying I did so as I was commanded, and then the next words are, if Israel asks you what, so our Creator's still talking to him, then it can't be there. And then he said, this is his reply. And then he went and done what our Creator said. So the order, though, that group is just wrong. I'm adding these words as major words. You notice I'm not using the word like as a major word here, because the importance of I am is you have to have those words in the sentence to really make completeness of the verse, now verse, and then have added the word warning because it has been mentioned above in our Creator's words to him. So it needs to be there as well, not just that he's a sign. Proverb to prophecy, because the Proverbs, they really aren't true. Their Proverbs are more or less like sayings. And prophecy is what they were saying that was not going to happen from Ezekiel or the prophet at this time. And here we have that saying every prophecy from you will fail. Even though I needed to correct it to mean that, I needed to correct the word prophecy here then and go to say them, their words will cease, their proverbs, but it's pretty much their words because they aren't prophecies. So I have to use the word words and say that day is near in the fulfillment of my prophecies, meaning our Creator's prophecies will be coming. Prophets to diviners, because that's who the evil ones are, is diviners. And here it is that the text that our Creator tells them to those who prophesy. So here, this is again relating to the text above, how our Creator is saying that those words are like prophesying against his prophecy. So, and know their thoughts, not inspiration, but their thoughts, pretty much the same, but I wanted to make sure that 12-year-olds can read this and understand and not listen to my words. And woes to those diviners and those following mankind, those that are going away from our Creator. They are not seeing me. So it has, they have not and have not seen nothing. The in was here without this here, but I removed the in, seen nothing. I wanted to change it to specifically mean that they weren't seeing our Creator to be able to say that these were prophecies from him. Because down here we have, they speak foolishness. They don't see falsehoods. They speak falsehoods and are lying divinations, and then told them, then I sent them. So you have to, sometimes when you're correcting these, you have to look at what's down and then recorrect above and then come back and forth, because you don't know what's in the story until it's being broken up or said. So a lot of times I am going back and forth. And this was a real good example of me doing that. Like the word prophecy, the word wants. I think it was the word wants. What was it up here? Warning. But that's how I do a lot of these. You don't know what the text is actually saying when you're working specifically on small groups. But as they start unfolding, then you realize what's going on. These falsehoods are changed into faking visions, is what they were doing. And they were lies, and then speak a lie. Even though it is not a law, they aren't supposed to gossip, but you can see that our Creator does not like liars, okay? So I know when you speak against somebody means to, and twisting the truth is a lie. We can find many different places in the text, the new revealed text, to show that our Creator does not like people lying. So you women out there telling those little white lies, don't do it. And if you're going to try not to lie, then say words that aren't really related as that answer to get away from you being caught or being said a lie. So I'm just saying that these diviners and their faults are really lies. We have it. This is coming again from text being corrected above. I don't know if I want to change the word counsel yet, so that's something I want to take a look at later. So some of these are notes to myself as I go forward. And I think I even saved it, so it's probably not in the next text. So I guess I should get rid of that. Having to add these words here, because there's not going to be any peace, but that just drops it off, and this fits a 4 verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's a 4 verse, and this would follow, so it had to be made into a 4 verse. And you can see the text just drops off, and then starts into another one. Now, this is going to be talking about to those women who are changing the dress code for our Creator. Our Creator told them to be natural looking, or not natural looking, the way He created us, and not to be covering yourself up. That our Creator is proud of the way He made you. You should be proud of the way our Creator made you. And everybody should understand that when they say something about somebody's look, you're actually complaining about our Creator's work. So, but here, it's those that make bands. Now, see how they added the word magic bands? Well, the thing here is they're adding text that completely is distorting everything here, because it's chains that they had on their ankles, and they put little bracelets or little symbols that would hang from their bracelets. We get that from another prophet. I think it's Isaiah, talking about how they had crescent moons made chains in for their wrists and ankles for this crescent moon. So a lot of this I'm using because I know it's in the text from someplace else to correct this text. So I'm sure that when people try to do this on their own, it's going to be confusing to them how I ended up with some of these words. But once they get done with whatever they got and then go back and forth to really read it, they're going to say, oh, they're saying that here and they're saying that here, and it's being said again. So, example, Muslims have their women wear veils over them. There's no veils on their head and faces. Okay. This again, when I added the word faces to mean not putting the veil over your face, I think it comes from, I don't know if that prophet made it into the text. I don't know how much a Haggai I think it was in. I think that's where he said not to. My sister went down to Texas to be in just a member standing in the crowd for a movie about Jesus, and she was showing the shot of all the clothing, and I told her, I says, that's all false clothing. And she says, what are you talking about? So I showed her the verse that the true people were. We have people on here today that try to lock themselves into time and say we're going to act like this. They used to be called Puritans, I think. Well, not really Puritans. They were strict. I want to use the Amish today because they try to live without the modern conveniences and still wear clothing that they wore 300 years ago. Well, that's because when they read the text, that's the way our Creator was telling them. You wear hides, and hides were white. So they were supposed to wear white hides all the time. And they're not, when you hear like a headscarf, it was really to tie a woman's hair from blowing all over the place and getting tangled up. But the object is that I was looking for that text to show that because I know I made that, and I do want to show that at some time, that text. Well, how our Creator said not to be changing your look from the way He made you or to add to it. So, lights of my daughters, because males don't wear this. So, profane to corrupt. It's not, you can't profane His people. You corrupt His people. But I just didn't want to say I added the word there. They had a word, they used it wrong there. And this continually talking, and this is your hands to be hunted. And it's not, when you read the text completely as it's cleaned up, they're trying to control people, or control the women. So that needs to be put in. Wow. Inequity to sins here. So now I had to put a hyphen to keep this meaning as one word. But I just wanted to say that you can't get rid of either or word, but you definitely need the word repent. Their idols and evilness. This should have been yellow. And then if they repent, He will not send them away. It has to be correct that's what He's saying. Because this was just to complete this. It was kind of like you'd been left hanging off, like, what about it? As you know, there's many times you'll read that and then reread, and it still doesn't make any sense. I didn't know I didn't do that part there. All this text, like I said, really gets stupid in here about what's going on. Navel cord was not cut, unwashed, and rubbed with salt. Kind of like, come on now. That's, you were squirming in your blood. Just the stupid words being put in here. So, like I said, a lot of this I'm just going to remove. And I did remove a lot here, so okay. Turn from means to stop sinning. Observes to obey my commandments. Because statutes, there's very few of them. Commandments are the ones that are sin and make you sinful, and why you're evil or not righteous. I've done this word so many into sins, and just that should be easy to know by now. According to like, those are so familiar to each other, or close enough to each other that I'm just changing the word that's here to a better word to be used. And here, it has to be added. For them will die. There is no such thing as the soul dying unless you understand their practice of becoming a god and believing in reincarnation. And if you don't think that's what's in some of the texts or in the minds of these guys that were editing it, you can look at some of the stupid words Jesus said, and that's a video I have in the caption below, and it shows where Jesus tells you Elijah has become John. He's reincarnated as John. So, and then talks about karma. No, that's out of the text here now. Yeah, if to yet, I'm pretty sure that if I could get my computer working, that would be correct, that they would use the word if instead of the word yet. Way to judgment, judgments by me. The word way is intended to mean judgment, so I'm not really adding the word here. I'm just replacing that word. It's not right, but it's not good, because your goodness depends on how much you start obeying our Creator. Your goodness turns into your righteousness. You can see I've done that here as well. Maybe I should only put them up when I'm speaking of something. And I think there's going to be quite a few verses missing here or removed. Whole chapter 19's gone. Thus to this, boy, I got to get that replumb the back of my computer. And I guess if you've done that a few times yourself, you know it takes a while to do it right, especially when you don't have enough plugs in the back of these things. That's what happens when you buy a cheaper one and not the more expensive one. It doesn't have all the ports that's needed. Swore as promised. This is talking about what he said to those in the day when he took them out as his nation. And I had to make sure that I had to have the word nation here, because the text is telling us that these words here don't mean or have nothing related to what he's been talking about. So it has to be his nation into their land, the promised land. Said he commanded, cast, removed, or remove. And then he told them he was their creator. And that's when he gave them the 10 Commandments. He spoke to everybody at that time. He spake to everybody at that time. Okay, this text is... That's why I didn't... If you see how much editing I skipped, I really chopped a good 2 weeks of work off of this. I mean, it does take me that long. I do other things especially lately with the hurricane going through. I am, not En. I'm an American. I speak it as I am, not En. And my parents' place got hit pretty bad. So I was down a few weeks um, before I got back together here and started doing these again. And then I thought that when I was reading it, I thought, okay, there's something there that I can start making another format out of. So I do read it to see if there is anything there. And when it starts telling a story instead of just verse after verse of just talking gibberish, um, I still did do breaking them down. And then, because when you recognize a word like this in the middle of it, Ammon, they're dead. They've been gone. Face this towards the son of Ammon. They've been dead for almost 1,000 years. So that's how, and then Moab as well down here. They might have been able to fool you, but they aren't going to fool me. Now here, it's Nebuchadnezzar, but we're still talking. Nebuchadnezzar is the next few prophets and not this prophet. Could I make something out of this to be here? Well, when I read it, I realized it's already been being said and it would have been by Jeremiah finally, because I think Israel starts off as a prophet that's at the end, but he's on the Judah side. And not on the Israeli side, prophet for the Israeli side. So the thing here is even at that time, they didn't know who it was. It was still, because it was still Assyria. And then the text actually has it when that battle did take place, that all of a sudden the Assyrian leader captain was sent away and he died battling. And then it seemed like they joined together to make one nation to call it peace. It looks like I don't know how history is going to record it, but the text that we have got, it reflects that they're going to trade kings back and forth by ruling over this. So that might seem odd to you today that this large kingdom, they didn't want it to be fought for years, because when you look in where Assyria is mentioned, it's pretty much Turkey, and how mountainous is in there. You could fight for years in there, especially how they fought at that time. They could not get like a battle front going to say large groups, so you can see the problem. So, but Turkey is so far away from, say that there's a lot of grain growing in the south for trading from Assyria. So once they started cutting it off, they cut off their food supplies. So I'm sure that when you start realizing that, or they realize that, well, let's just share this kingdom. It's a good agreement. And when you look into Daniel, you'll see that text, how I have it that way, showing that it's a sharing. And that's by this text. And I don't go by anything that the secular world has tried to write. Example, I know I mentioned it before, but all the text we have about Rome, they didn't start collecting anything until after 700 years after Rome was gone. And a lot of things over 700 year literally gets changed, rotten, distorted, thrown out. So a lot of that stuff that you see of Rome, they would find a statue and then they'd make up a story of it. And after they'd done it so many times, then they put their stories together and said, this is what it means. No, because they wrote it for mankind. They didn't write it to be truthful. So, anyways, dwells is the word live, but it's really the people who dwell there. So I'm using the word people. And now these people here are Roman. So I'm going to, because when the story about Tyra here going down, and this seems to be, now this is Lebanon. This is like maybe 60 miles away from Jerusalem, maybe a little bit farther, 80 miles, something like that. Anyways, they'd seemed to have started doing the shipping and building all the ships to travel around the Mediterranean, and they also made the boats that would go into, I think it's the Red Sea, to go towards India. And this whole trade route here, I didn't go through this text to point out all the trading, because this text starts out about how beautiful they're and where all their parts come from to make their ships. And then down here, it slightly mentioned how their traders go. And then I stopped it, because a lot of this text, when it goes through here, that's all what it's saying is who traded with who. You want the truth of, I would have to make up more than what's used here, and I didn't want to go against what our Creator's hidden formats show. So the trading routes and the people that, how they traded all the way from India by all these ships that they were building as, they monopolize it. They, I think up here, they put their recognized symbol on their sails, so everybody knew who or where they were coming from. Distinguished mark is a recognized symbol on their sails. And they're not sailors here at this time, they're traders. When you read this and you're putting it together, and you can't be using other words here, you have to make it up like that. But then they're going to be broken up in the sea. Now, when does this happen? This seems to happen when Assyria comes through. Because at Babylon's time, it seems like there's no word of anything about ships, because we don't have any words mixed with Babylon in this story, but we have, I think, from other prophets that this is tied to Assyrians, or it would be best placed with the Assyrians coming down, and they and the storms that our Creator at this time is going to destroy their shipping. So is it a tornado that comes across and really destroys all the ships? That's what it seems to mean. But the timeline that where I'm going to place this at is with the Assyrians. In the winds on the water. So this is, because if I got they'll be broken up. I've added the word broken, or added the word up. They'll be broken by the sea, by the depths of the water. Now, does that mean waves? You can't have a tsunami in the Mediterranean, so we know that's not true. So it has to be the word wind, and we know that it could be tornado. By the winds on the water would be, maybe I should add an S to winds. Maybe even have to add the word tornado. I know it would be a word used from today, but because it's not a hurricane. Hurricane is caused by warmer weather mixed with cold weather, and it needs thousands of miles to build up. And the Mediterranean isn't that large. Inhabitants to races. I think I'm going to have to change our Creator's hidden formats to that, races, because I didn't really think that much when I was doing that text. I kept using inhabitants or other peoples, but appalled or worried. And it was their trader and their merchants were going to be among them, and then they will mock, and yours will be no more. And since these two verses are missing, I just had to leave them space. Didn't go through with anything. Now here, in this text all of a sudden says wiser than Daniel, yet Daniel doesn't even start until after Judah is gone. So you can see that they're re-editing text with the knowledge of that experience. So you can see that when I point out other places, when the kingdom gets corrupted by the priests and the scribes, I have to point to these kings here, and you'll see above here on the Judah side, Manasseh. Now, the timeline needs to be stretched out to be correct for 50 years, but the object here is it's that time when the priests become corrupt, because you see that in some of the prophecies that I've already gone through here for what's said is in Ezekiel, and I know that it can't be Ezekiel saying those. But and like the king of Lamentations over the king of this has nothing. Our Creator isn't worried about what happens up there. He's just telling them that they're going to have woes and stuff. So yes, that's probably true, but with a seal of perfection and wisdom and perfect in beauty, couldn't be. That's why he made the kingdom of Israel is the one that they wanted to follow. If Tyre or king of Tyre, and this actually would be king of Lebanon, I would say. Not this is a city. So, but this text, yeah, these words just pop out, and when you start reading them, that here example, land of Egypt will be desolation. That's never been true. So how can it be true? Sticking Nebuchadnezzar in when, see, we have Babylon now being mentioned, but we don't have Assyria mentioned yet in any of the text yet. So would some of this text clean up and go to another book? I looked at that. No, we've got enough text in there that does that. That says the same thing, in case you're worried about me just getting rid of the text. The same thing here, because Egypt never fell again to them, so that's not true. Egypt ceases by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. That did not happen. That's why even today, as you keep going down from Israel, there's a river that comes in from the Mediterranean called, even today, the River of Egypt. If you're going to conquer Egypt, Egypt's name would be no more, and they would have changed the naming and things. So the thing here of things, so that river is actually the dividing line between the Roman Empire and the Babylon Empire, and Egypt stayed alone. So this here is absolutely not true. But I think I've done enough of them to skip through a lot of this text. No, I see I didn't leave myself any more notes to talk, so that was... I think when I seen the word prophet or Pharaoh here, the word Pharaoh is used so many times in the text. I think it's used over 50 times. And I know I've referred to the referred to only 22 times mentioned in the text. Well, that's the text that from the text that our Creator gave me to find in his hidden formats. But I was realizing when I did a study here that, oh, gee, I been lying to people. I didn't add what I was saying, because when you look for the corruption in the text, you have to remember Aaron and Moses knew what the king of Egypt's name was. So it's not Pharaoh. But you can see that mankind has come in here and they re-edited his name out by using just the word Pharaoh. So we have lost his name because they didn't feel it was important enough for us to know what king and at what time things had. So we had a better timeline of what's going on, with knowing closer to the dates what happened from the text we are now being revealed. That's now being revealed. I needed the word am here. I'm just adding it because I have two major words here. Make is to get ready. Sometimes it's to ready yourself, meaning to prepare for an army. And it has the same likeness to get ready to go, like to travel. So get ready has its meaning, and it's tied to two different conditions. One to get it ready for an army, and one for yourself to get ready. Here I changed the word trumpets to horns. Again, horns. I changed it here. I guess I didn't change it above yet, so I guess it got by me above there. And blood will be spilled. I not on their own head, but spilled. This would mean that they're responsible for their death if this was here, but they'll be taken away and blood will be spilled for them coming and taking them away by swords. Heard to listen. Oh man, 52 minutes. I gotta stop this one. Whoa, 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 whoa.